This is a PlayStation 3. It's dead. It has the yellow light of death, the PS3 version of the 360's red ring. These old fat models have become somewhat notorious for breaking down, normally due to GPU issues. It's a model that came out just after PS2 backwards compatibility was removed, so while it can be fixed, it's not worth fixing. I've been wanting to replay a few of my old PS3 games, so I recently purchased a slim model. These models tend to be more reliable than the old fat ones. In general, I think they have a much better design than this Spiderman font using grill box. I will probably eventually do some fun homebrew stuff and play some games I didn't get around to, but for now I'm going to cover a game I've been needing to talk about for quite a while. This is the Orange Box for the PS3, and this is not the best way to play it. This was also my first experience playing through any of Valve's games. There's a bit of a story behind this, so let us go back to 2006. The PS3 did not have a fun time early on. Its notoriously embarrassing E3 press conference spawned many memes.
It's Ridge Racer! Ridge Racer!
And its cell architecture, despite its power, proved to be very challenging and difficult for many developers at the time. One of these developers was Mr. Valve himself, Gabe Newell.
The PlayStation 3 makes my life as a software developer much harder. All of a sudden I'm supposed to figure out how to have this asymmetrical, multi-threaded game, right? And I've never written a single line of multi-threaded code ever, right? It's not like I was like lying awake saying, I need to re-architect every line of code I've ever written in order to get it to work.
Gabe stated that the cell architecture was a waste of everyone's time, and that investing in its use had no long-term benefits, and would only create a hatred for the architecture by the developers working on it. His distaste for it was so strong, Valve handed the PS3 port of the OB over to EA, and handled the Xbox 360 version themselves in-house. Gabe used to work for Microsoft, who owns Xbox, so I have a feeling some of the dislike towards PlayStation maybe have some camaraderie towards his old workplace. As you'll soon see, there's quite a few issues with the PS3 version of the box. This article in late November by BitTech, about a 1UP article I can't find, implies this version of the box presented to them was barely playable. But this article around the same time from IGN shows that the port had issues, but it was at least playable. Regardless, while the Xbox and PC got the box on the 10th of October 2007, it took EA till the 11th of December to finish and release the PS3 port. I believe this is part of the reason why 3 years later in 2010, Gabe appeared to have a change of heart, and Valve handled the port of Portal 2.
Hi, my name is Gabe Newell and I work at Valve. Now, I've been pretty outspoken in my comments about the current generation of game consoles.
This game got one update. I actually didn't know what this patch fixed until recently. Apparently there was a Steam forums thread for the PS3 patch, but I can't find an archive of it. After all, the starting logos were given the choice of what game from the box you want to play, each with a small video and background to show off the game, similar to the Xbox version. Starting off with the Half-Life 2 games, the first thing I remember is the load times. Honestly, while they're bad, they're not as bad as I remember. The next thing I never picked up on because this was my first experience with Half-Life 2 is how weirdly pitched G-Man sounds.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
I talk! Just wait!
In fact, a lot of the sounds are pretty off in pitch. The weird thing is, some sounds are pitched up and other sounds are normal. This goes for all the games in the box. Also, every now and then the audio gets all crinkly. Playing an FPS game with a controller is not fun. I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 3 and going from gyro aiming to stick aim is tricky at the best of times. The graphic settings are locked in. The frames per second are set to 30. The field of view is low, about 75 I think. I've heard lower FOV is better for console gaming, but to me it just feels weird. The resolution is limited to 720p. I think a lot of this is the same for the 360 version, so this is more of an observation than a complaint. Motion blur is enabled by default, meaning moving fast does the screen covered in petroleum jelly thing. I use motion blur sometimes for videos, mostly the weird map series, but it feels really amped up for some reason. Half-Life and Episode 1 run at a constant frame rate, but Episode 2 constantly dips below 30. Not always slideshow bad, but still bad. But you know what? It's not all bad. Episode 1 and 2 both have developer commentary available, and the games are playable. It's not like they crash every 10 minutes. I mean, these flawed versions of the games are how I first experienced them. I think that just goes to show how good these games are overall. Half-Life 2 on the PS3 was the first-person shooter that convinced me there was more to FPS games than brown-coloured Call of Duty clones.
Come on, Gordon, crank that thing! Great!
Just like with the PS3 Half-Life games, the interest here is an almost day one launch version of Portal being playable. The features added during the Portal 2 ARG are not present. No radios, no being dragged away at the end.
Thank you for assuming the party escort submission position.
I did try some cheats, but some that work on the Xbox don't appear to translate to PS3. I was mostly disappointed I couldn't get the Put Portals Anywhere cheat working. I could spawn a health pack though, so that's something. There's also a lot of frame drops. Like, a lot. The PS3 does not like it when you look into portals. It's also worth mentioning the bonus versions of the map are included in the PS3 version. And like with episode 1 and 2, the option to play with a commentary track is available. Sadly, there's not much more to talk about with this version of Portal. Now let's look at the last game in this collection. Team Fortress 2 on the PS3. My first experience of Team Fortress 2 was me back in late 2007 running up to the spawn doors as a pyro and taunting. Because all the other games in the Orange Box use square for the use button, but in TF2 it's the taunt button. This is an almost bone stock day one Team Fortress 2. 15 plus years of updates have not touched this version. Pyros can't air blast, engineers can't move buildings or upgrade dispensers or teleporters, spies can't even pick up metal when cloaked. Demo is horribly unbalanced, no hats, no new weapons, no new maps, just everyone living in the moment. There are also a few other bits of weirdness, like the demo man having 6 grenades in his grenade launcher, and all the classes sharing odd death and fall damage sounds. Coming back to the original version of TF2 after 15 plus years of updates is just strange. I know a lot of people get nostalgia for the early days of TF2, but some of it is best left back in the early days. Demo Man is a shit brick of a shutdown power class. Heavy is even more slow than he is today. I thought Spy would suck, but I got trick stabbed by this guy twice somehow, so I don't know, maybe he's really good on PS3. It doesn't help everyone is trying to hit each other while using a controller. At least some very floaty gameplay, which feels more like a game of chasey at times rather than a controlled battle. The PS3 version of this game is missing a lot of features that its Xbox counterpart has. You can't even hold an invite-only game. Back in 2008, Gamespot had to move a tournament over to the 360 version due to this. Let's talk about the maps. We only have the 6 launch maps to play on. Two Fort, Dust Bowl, Well, Granary, Gravel Pit, and Hydro. Since this version of TF2 is almost a day one release, we can play spot the difference with some of the maps. Two Fort is lacking the health and ammo kits near the spiral to the intel and underground areas. Well is missing this pathway up to the balcony, and the water entrance is on the other side. This side path at the start of Dust Bowl Stage 2 is not present in the launch version. And the staircase on Stage 3 is not here yet. I know Granary had some layout changes as well, but I can't find them. It's also worth noting that Hydro, Gravel Pit and Well have their developer commentary, allowing you to play these 3 maps offline. You would think a game as isolated and old as PS3 TF2 would be well dead, but nope, still has players. To be fully honest, it's not a lot of players, but it's more than 0. There are people around, but they don't come out much. I was surprised that a small community of PS3 YouTubers exists. It's like a little isolated island of a TF2 community making videos just for each other. I found 2 news articles about the PS3 community while researching for this video. One from 2017 by Vice talking about the tight-knit community it created, and another from 2019 about players saving the PS3 servers after they went down. It looks like the PS3 community was reasonably healthy until the server outage in 2019. Afterwards it died off starting around 2020, with games of 6v6 slowly becoming 5v5s, then 4v4s, and now 2v2s with the odd 3v3. A lot of the PS3 players have either moved to PC or the Xbox version, which is still quite active and has gotten a boost from backwards compatibility via the Xbox One. Speaking of the Xbox version, you may have seen Ratlobber's video about the hacking and modding scene the 360 version had. The PS3 version also had a modding scene, but it wasn't as deep as its 360 counterpart. You can fiddle around with the gain saves to run commands to the developer console. This allows for players to join a game and run commands from their end to the server. And as far as I can tell, this isn't limited by SV cheats. Thanks EA. Very secure. Very cool. I've seen some examples ranging from players making quality of life settings to running almost source mod like scripts to change gameplay. I found this footage from a PS3 player called John Blaze showing off payload on Dust Bowl and even a zombie game mode. Of course, there's quite a few examples of people hacking using this method as well, ranging from prop blocking capture points to changing the color of objects in game. I didn't see anything too crazy like Immortal no clippers, but I do know they happen. It looks like in early 2010 some players even hosted on certain servers using this trick. I found this blog run by a player called Sennheiser who posted a lot about their adventures in TF2 modding. Even this guy's PS3 broke. While working on this video, EA announced that on March the 28th, 2023, the servers for the PS3 version of Team Fortress 2 will be shutting down. In a weird way, this will be the first dead TF2. But honestly, it's had its time. You can at least take some solace in the fact that even TF2 for the PS3 has outlived many of its competitors. If you have a PS3 and a copy of the Orange Box, I suggest you give it a look while you still can. I find that TF2 PS3 Reddit is a good starting place if you're looking for people to play with. There's also this website that monitors if there's any servers running that I find very useful. The PS3 port of the Orange Box is a curious blip in the history of Valve games. Rejected by its own creators, barely maintained by its new owners. I can't say I recommend it. If you want a vanilla experience, in many ways you're better off playing the Xbox version. But I can't deny there's some strange appeal to playing a version of these games that are so isolated from the rest of the source community. And it's how me and many others first experienced Half-Life, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. I wouldn't be here talking about it if it didn't exist. And just because it wasn't the best port, doesn't mean the games were bad. When I went to buy the PS3 Slim from a retro store, there was this guy who was definitely on some substance walking up to cars in the parking lot and squirting water on the windshields to wipe them. Of course, he walks up to my car and without asking squirted water all over the window. So I tell him in the most polite way to F off. Next thing he starts going on at me about how his minivan is faster than my car over and over again. Like full Bergen, "Yeah, my minivan's faster than your car, mate. My minivan's faster, yeah. My minivan's faster." Just a really strange interaction I now have tied in my brain to this PS3 Slim. Thank you, strange minivan man. My minivan's faster, yeah.